Ford Model T. What more needs to be said? Now this. There's an 8 of some kind. We move round to the arena.
We were doing what we've got now, which is hot asphalt. And the main feature of this as
Miniature Foden.
has just been ably demonstrated is the fact that it will go forward and go into reverse without actually stopping. If you stop on when you're doing a road with hot asphalt, then not only does the asphalt stick to the rollers, but more importantly, you'll leave a dent or a bump in the road. And the beauty of this engine is you can literally throw it straight into reverse and it doesn't stop. But there are lots of other features on it which I won't bore you with. It's a twin-cylinder compound engine. The water is held not in the tender at the back, but in 2 panniers alongside underneath the boiler there, which is very good. It means the distribution of weight is very even. And also, for the driver, it's easier to get on and off. You don't have to climb on down the side of the tender, you just step off the back. All the other engines have got what I always refer to as chain and bobbin steering. This has got Roman quadrant steering, like early motor cars. Makes it a lot easier to manoeuvre. Independent suspension on the rear wheels. Very much a modern design. And that's followed in by the Tinker, which is a product from Burrells of Thetford, the well-known traction engine and engineers. It was the first engine acquired by Claude Jessett just shortly after the Second World War, and I think it was owned by the Ministry of Agriculture on forestry work. And he always wanted steam engines, did Claude, because he worked for a blacksmiths in the area, and part of their job was to service the county council's steam rollers. Got very interested in steam, and he bought this ostensibly for use on this very farm, which was then called Bracierlands. It was owned by his aunts. And of course Claude and Joyce Jessett, the people that started this rally, and in whose name the trust was formed. Right, well, the Williams family just going round with their Foden steam lorry, which is 6 inches to the foot. It's half the size. You get a rough idea, that lorry is going round there. We've got a full-size Sentinel steam lorry, and it looks a bit smaller than half size, but I can show you that it's exactly 6 inches to the foot scale, half size. Polly, hello Polly, that's Fred Street. Owen Polly's giving us the whistle now. This is one of several Aveling and Porter rollers Aveling and Porter are most prolific manufacturers of steam rollers in the world, in fact. And they were based at near Rochester in Kent. This engine is one that I know quite well because it used to be based at the British Engineering down in Hull. Built in 1931, one of a batch of 5 built for a company, and it's been since the current owner, Fred Streeter, has had it since the year 2000. Now, it's still not fully closed because it's done the tender. You can see the tender at the back where the coal is. Lovely, beautifully lined out and everything, but it hasn't got all the tins, as we call it. That's the boiler lagging that goes around the boiler. Because Fred is a steam engineer and he's been working on other people's engines, so he's never got to sort of get this one completely finished. But it was owned at one time, when I know it, was Dick Martino, who was an engineer, a Supreme Steam engineer, and did work at the British Engineering. Sadly lost his life in a tragic accident, and it passed on, and we're very pleased to see it back on the field again this year. Pensioner is also an engine that belongs to the Claude Jessett Trust. It was a general agriculture engine, is what we call it. Didn't do ploughing or anything like that. Certainly it would pull farm wagons if it was taking something to the station or the local mill or whatever, but the main use of this engine was for linking it up with a belt to the flywheel, where it would drive a threshing machine, which is the precursor to today's modern combine harvester. And when it wasn't doing that at harvest time during the winter, it would be driving a saw bench for the local sawmill, would be making fence posts and various items of timber, obviously for logging and that sort of thing. So it was an all-round good engine, but it was bought by Claude in the 1970s, this one, and it was built in 1919, and Claude's had it for 40 odd years, but it was laid up because it needed quite a lot of he did rally it for a bit, needed a brand new boiler, which was an expensive area. So it got dismantled and several parts were lost, but and it lived in a shed which we call a pensioner shed on the site here, and that shed eventually sort of fell down almost around it. It was the first one that was worked on after the trust was formed in 2003. And an awful lot of the work on rebuilding that engine was done by Trust volunteers, including John Carver, who should be here today. And that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're working again. That's Jolly. Jolly has just gone in front of us. That's Peter Haynes' engine. He's one of the trustees here. A chain drive engine, which is unusual because all the other engines on the field here are just gear driven, but when we say gears, you start thinking about gears in your car or your lorry or your van, but nothing like that. Like the Southern Queen coming along, right, it's got 2 gears, but when you want to change from one gear to the other, there's no gear lever, you literally stop. Well, there is a lever because you pull a lever over and you literally watch it as the gears go into mesh, and then that's the next gear and you can move. So now if you get to the bottom of a hill and you want to change down, you literally have got to stop and change down gears physically. With the chain drive, that doesn't apply. Therefore it's a quicker engine and it's not too complicated, but despite that, they didn't sell that many of that design. Southern Queen is one of the Trust family again. It's another Aveling and Porter, bought originally as we call them a tractor, which is quite right, a steam tractor, otherwise 4 wheels as opposed to a steam roller. But it was built by Aveling and Porter as a convertible, which means it could be made literally from a tractor into a steamroller. So it spent a lot of its life as a steamroller with Essex County Council. When Claude got it in the 60s, he was travelling fairground organs and a couple of juvenile rides, so he wanted a showman's engine. So he had, I mentioned, I think, converted this engine to a showman's, which is a one with the long canopy and all the curling brass. That's the one you can see going round now. The big feature of the Showman's engine is that it was used to drive the fairground rides using what? Electricity, ladies and gentlemen. At a time of the year when all the houses around here would have been lit by paraffin lamps or candles, the fairground came to town with an engine like this with a dynamo on the front, and the flywheel, instead of being connected up, like I said, to a threshing machine or whatever, would be connected up to the dynamo and provide power for the lights, but more importantly, for the actual ride itself.
Now we've got an Apeling and Porter road roller. Apeling and Porter built more road rollers than anyone else in the world, I think. And although every manufacturer had to go and build them, but Apeling and Porter has the best one. This one owned by the Izzard family, Ebenezer, and word Ebenezer, though it was originally owned by a company of road makers, and the Ebenezer is Hebrew for worker in stone. And of course this is what it did, it rolled the stone to make the roadways. And one of the jobs it did was the old original Wembley Stadium, not the funny thing we've got now, the original one with the two towers. It actually rolled the roads around the stadium. And when they were going to pull it down, it actually made a return journey up to Wembley, and they actually drove it up and down the road as it rolled all those years ago. This is a memorial to it, really, in a way. The fact that it was there at the start of it, and now it was there at the end of it.
Next one going round is Marshall engine, built by Marshall Gainsborough in 1900. Used to a company called Kendall's. Used to something called Kendall's, who were threshing tractors. It was requisitioned in World War I for the army, where threshing was needed to do all the stuff that the horses did that they sent to France. But of course the horses over there needed food and bedding. And that was all sent over from England because the French farmlands were being destroyed in the war. And of course, the army then requisitioned an awful lot of these threshing machines to do that work. It was sold off soon after the war to Hattons of the people whose names on the top, Hentons of Hopworth in Tamworth, and he was currently owned by the Kemp family from Crowborough in East Sussex. Oh, now Dumpy, that's one that I only got the details about this morning. It's an interesting engine because it's the first time it's been in the store. It's done and there was a stop. And it's with the pride tonight. Apparently that's the original but this one is called Dumpy. And I'm told the family who acquired it since then, they kept it because the chap's wife was referred to affectionately as Dumpy. It wasn't any further than that. But the same company had it for many years, and it's recently been acquired by, when I say recently, I mean in the last 2 or 3 weeks, by Fergus Jardine, who's bought it from Lenham in Kent. And the advert on the back is for the Working Steam Weekend at High Weald. It's the next big rally in this area on the 14th and 15th of June. They haven't got an arena like this, but the rally is designed as a working rally to show all the different jobs that steam engines would do. And it's gone from strength to strength over the last 3 years, and I can thoroughly recommend it as a family show. There's lots to see and do, and there's going to be a very big contingent over from France as well. The Endurance is an absolutely marvellous engine with lots of history.
Coming past the front of its Endurance, an engine that's been on the rally field, I think as long as I have, always the same family. It disappeared for a year or so, a couple of years, and what they've been doing is a complete total rebuild on it, and it's a great credit to Ian that's driving it, and his dad Bob, probably around somewhere. What they've done to this engine They've done an absolute superb job. It's absolutely good. I've seen pictures of it on Facebook as the rebuild's been going on. The first time I've seen it this weekend in real life. What a marvellous job they've done with it.
Yeah.
Over 100 years.
Yeah. The oldest engine on site was built in 1895. And as Brian just said, you know, the Laney family have been involved in steam engineering and engine ownership for as long as I've been about on the rally circuit. That's certainly over 40 years. Once again, Bob Laney was one of the engineers at the British Engineering, and his brother Ed. And it's Ian Langley, who is one of the organisers for the aforementioned high-wheeled rally, which is it's a Freshfield Mill sloop lane near Skanes Hill on the 14th and 15th of June. Finally enough, we've got a second engine that's from Dumfries County Council. It's an Avery and Porter L-type roller, 7-tonner, which means quite light ready for a roller. It's called Orinoco, and it's entered by Jason James from Freecumpton in Sussex, built in 1931, so quite a late build for a steamboat. Shortly before it was taken over by Mark, who's take over the Department of Ground.
See how hard it is to steer one of those. That is a very hard drive.
It's called Jess, actually, if I remember rightly.
Imagine trying to manoeuvre one of those. I'd hate to do that.
It's a K7, which makes it a very heavy engine, built in 1920. It does still work in ploughing engine, in ploughing matches, and there's one up in Kent coming up in July. Mr. Cropper was telling me about it yesterday, and I forgot the date, but it's worth checking up on that. Normally the ploughing engines work in pairs, one at each end of the field, turning a plough between them. It sounds a bit cumbersome, but it works very well. It was an idea of the famous Sir John Fowler, and revolutionised ploughing really, because it was long before the days of tractors when you had to be horse-drawn ploughing, and one man could plough an acre in a day, so they say. One of these engines, a pair of these engines on the fence could, with a 6-furrow balanced plough as we call it, would plough up to 60. Right. We'll plough up to 20 acres a day. 20 acres a day. And believe it or not, that is Spiss Chris, one of the first people to use these engines. Spiss Chris had their own sets of ploughing engines for their potato farms in the east of England.
He's still trying to do a 3.10. I won't film the 3-point turn. It's hard enough without people videoing him.
Also, I've got one or two things.
Obviously we have to get the public out of the way because, yeah, the public can be muppets, but then how do we know what the hazards are? That's it. How does the public know what the hazards are? You have to tell them. He's done it in one go. That is a 3-point turn, so a lot easier than the last one. That's the by looks of things, steamroller W Turner Hardwick. Where's Hardwick?
Probably about the size of the acting extension.
That's a Wallace and Stevens.
Never say that on size. You start measuring, you'll find your piece. Guys are very competitive.
That's an Invicta, Aveling and Porter.
Larger Fowler, exactly the opposite. I should have said they were the smaller of the Fowler engines. The BB engine, BB series coming in now, which is what's it? Yeah, it's no, this one is what's it? Yeah, first satellite BB at work. Went to the people see coming in south engine, and then again went to a series button.
There's Bowden. That's Fowler.
Amazing rebuild on this one. Literally in the house. Most of it was done on site, just up the top of the road there in live action. Being driven by Zena, who's an expert at driving pretty well anything.
Check that out.
She's always often seen on these towing engines, and I'll tell you what, as much as I do, there's still
That is a Burrell.
the muscle power. But you can see what I was saying about the plough, because
Saturn.
it's got the drum underneath where the winch cable played out between the two engines, they were paired left and right hand. And then one engine will be one engine, one will be the other.
Another Invicta, so that's probably an Aveling. Right, another Fowler.
When you're driving something like a threshing car, you can't have it just suddenly leap into power and just not do the job properly. The same with the sawmill. You've got to have governors to govern the power of the engine to a steady speed. So this engine could be used to two-speed. Yeah, out of season to do that sort of job. It's a very expensive. They were very expensive machines. There were very few farms. Well, I mentioned Smith's Chris had them, but very few farms that had these on their own. They were contractors engines. Rather like you get
John Fowler and Co. Leeds Limited Engineers. They certainly made those to last. Look at how well engineered that is. I wish I could buy a car that was that well engineered. Not as heavy, but well engineered. That's Invicta. Rather you than me, mate, crossing over like that. Must have been around plant all his life. Some people like that. Around plant all their life. They know where it's going. That's an Aveling, so that's going to be an Invicta brand. Oh, it does get that smoky round here.
I go back to what Fraser said, I did steal one out here in a very, very heavy steering, but it's not if it's really well oiled up, you know, perhaps a drop of oil on that and see that would be a good idea, I don't know, but it's a peg if you haven't done that, I tell you, as you can see, and Zena's up there doing we've got our own ploughing man on there now. Colin Wakefield, who looks after our ploughing engines, I say now, it's the trust of the ploughing engines. They're both out of commission with lots of work needed doing on them, and it's so expensive that you just not to do work with the ploughing engine. I'm talking about sanding, and that needs new tubes huge, and they discovered then it needed a new
Following that round, border rollers. This one's line half built.
Marshalls, traction engine.
It was sold originally to the Edison It's a huge company. They supplied rollers all over the country, doing road work.
There's a Sentinel.
and the company now is a Marshall 6 truck. The first one is with an 8. They did the 3 cycles, the 8 But actually, fact, the one that came in the third is actually good. One of the fast things that I've mentioned is that you could actually put wheels in the wheels. They've got plates that go over the holes in the wheel. And then it would carry up to 2 tons of water, so that would upgrade the engine.
Right, there's the one I saw earlier called Nightmare.
It was the first of the Wallace and Stevens that I know
Nightmare.
used to come to the Festival Transport with near the Marilyn Herring in the 1970s, and I was still, with my kids, doing commentary then. Probably no less now than what I did then, but I was doing it then. And my son was with me at the
But I don't know what it was originally. I just about make out John Fowler. That's another Fowler.
He learned to trade, if you like, on cat, and he's now got one of his own. That's been then passed on to somebody else's adventure house, and they, cut a long story short, it's now owned by a good friend of ours that used to be
There's a Foden.
the bigger whistle, but he's
I think
moved on.
Foden started off with steam engines, then went to making lorries.
Bruce Crockett organised a tail roller.
There's a load of people getting in front of steam engines. Right, so there's a Foden. Just about managed to get a shot of that. Nice little side view of the Foden. Foden's Limited, Sandbach, England. Look out, there's a steamroller in Wally's.
Underneath the boiler there.
Get squashed, it won't be their fault. Morons. Here we are with a Invicta, so Aveling and Barford this time. Looks like it was made in Grantham rather than Rochester. Unladen weight 10 tonnes. Look at that, that's heavy.
And it travels the country now, always under its own steam. And one of the journeys that it took